Good evening. Forced cultural assimilation and the suppression of the Hawaiian language. Those are some of the wrongdoings done historically against Native Hawaiians.
That's according to a new report released today known as the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative. KITV4's Jeremy Lee has more on the findings in a story that's all new tonight. Jeremy.
Mika and Rick, the section on Hawaii is unique from others as it also names missionaries, Native Hawaiian monarchs, royalty, and non-federal entities involved in establishing the island's first boarding schools in the early 1800s. But with the overthrow of the kingdom in 1893, many of those same schools would soon support policies suppressing Olelo, Hawaii. A list of 11 locations in Hawaii, topped by Hilo Boarding School, which shuttered in 1925, are identified by the Department of the Interior as being branches of federal boarding schools, which historically sought to assimilate Native peoples. The report concludes that, along with Alaskan Natives and Indigenous Americans, the encroachment was meant to dispossess Native people of their culture and land. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland says she bears the intergenerational trauma of federal efforts. 400 such schools operated between 1819 and 1969 in the U.S., where unmarked burial sites concealed a near 500 child deaths. Given child mortality rates in the 19th century, the report expects that figure to grow.
When my maternal grandparents were only 8 years old, they were stolen from their parents' culture and communities and forced to live in boarding schools until the age of 13. Many children like them never made it back to their homes.
The section on Hawaii states, from 1820 to 1850, the kingdom transformed the communal land tenure system to a private land ownership system, following pressure from foreign interests along with the U.S. In light of where movements stand today, Kuhio Lewis of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement credits the Department of Interior for shining a light on the wrongs of the past.
I think it all starts from being educated, from understanding our history, so that we can turn the page, turn the chapter. Recognizing Olelo Hawaii, and we see that in legislation today. So continuing to advocate and educate is going to be critical.
The report details a rigid life in cramped quarters, historically rife with abuse.
Recognizing the impacts of the federal Indian boarding school system cannot just be a historical reckoning. We must also chart a path forward to deal with these legacy issues.
The U.S. initiative has the daunting task ahead of identifying tribal identities of those placed in federal boarding schools as well as unmarked burials. The department says it has its sights set on preserving Native languages and investing in support services for Indigenous people.